Welcome back to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. And I'm Ken Decker.
And I'm Yetta Decker. And we're happy you joined us today.
We're just having a hoot here. And today we're going to talk about greening up your house. And I'm not talking about painting the walls green either.
Or planting trees.
You might want to do that.
Yeah, is that really what you're talking about?
No, it's more about energy efficiency of your home. And really, does that matter when you're selling a house?
Well, I think it does. It certainly matters more to some buyers than it does to other buyers. It's becoming more and more of a benefit to have a home that is more energy efficient, more green in nature, meaning it's got a smaller carbon footprint and just more energy, and it's the cost as well. It's not just what it's good that it's good for the environment. It's also that it's less expensive to actually live in that home.
Yeah, more and more people want to know before they put an offer in on a home, what's the cost for heat and hydro? And unfortunately, part of that is the efficiency of the home, and part of it is lifestyle.
Right.
So some people, like myself, I like to walk around in the winter in a t-shirt. And if it's not warm enough for a t-shirt, it's not warm enough in the house. Because I don't like a bulky sweater, and I don't put on a sweater, and I don't like putting on slippers. I wear socks. So my home might be a little more expensive per month than an exact same home where someone is more energy conscious, turns it down to 68 degrees when they're living in it and 55 when they're sleeping. I find that a little too cool.
Right. So what we're talking about today isn't so much personal preferences and we can all decide what our tolerance is for heat or cold. Do we use the air conditioning a whole lot in the summer, or do we sweat it out? So what we really want to talk about today is the home itself, the energy efficiency of the property, those things that don't change regardless of who's living in it.
And one of the best ways to find out whether your home is leaky, and I'm not talking about water leaking in the roof or
basement that's leaking?
Leaking heat or cooling out of the exterior of the home, is to have an home energy audit done. The government program for that ended March of 2012, so there isn't any compensation for it, although you may get compensation from just lower heat bills and that sort of thing, because you may find out that you just need to replace some weather stripping, or maybe your furnace is too outdated and isn't energy efficient enough, or maybe you've got some bad windows, or maybe your insulation's not thick enough in the attic. So a home energy audit costs about $300 for the...
Give or take on either side of that.
Yeah. And the benefits are you may be able to reduce your annual energy bills. It's going to improve your resale value. And there's two sections of the audit. The first section, like I said, is roughly, give or take, some $300. And that's where they come in and they examine your home for any leakage and give you recommendations, a whole printout of where your house ranks compared to other houses and improvements that you could make to it, and probably an estimated budget of what that might cost to do. And then after you do the improvements, you can have them back in, and that will cost you maybe about another $150 to have them come back in, retest the house, and give you a new updated ranking. And that ranking now would be something that we can use to resell your home later on.
Something to add value. We put together something called a home book when we bring property to the market, and that really is just a comprehensive list of the things you've done in the house. It would contain a property brochure. It may show the property taxes. It'll have a copy of your survey, as well as maintenance records for septic, for furnace, for all those things when you last did your shingles, warranty paperwork, and in the back will also contain some of the manuals and the information on how to function in the home. And the idea behind that is just letting people see with their own eyes the things you've done to improve the home and how you have cared for it and maintained it, even if you put in hardwood floors. I mean, we don't put itemized receipts for everything. You may want to put a summary list of the different things you've done in there, as well as a copy of an energy audit report. So that will add value in the eyes of prospective buyers, because you can be rest assured as they're going off to other homes, those documents and that information isn't going to be readily seen, and therefore it can't add the value.
Right.
And then the other place we can put it is actually in our MLS. We have the ability to put attachments onto the listings. And those are things that the realtor can see and print out on behalf of their client, showing additional value in the property, the extra care and diligence that's taken place in that property. So an energy audit is something we would want to include in those attachments. And again, just increasing the perceived value of the property because of the extra care and diligence you put into the property.
Right. And so a couple other benefits of doing the audit and then actually doing the work to improve the audit, because if you just do the audit and you leave it as it was, well, you kind of wasted your money, right, because you didn't make any changes. Not only are you going to save money, but you're going to be more comfortable. Your home will feel less drafty. The furnace won't come on as often. It's just going to be more comfortable. And then also you're doing your part for the environment because you're not having such a large carbon footprint and burning up fossil fuels to keep your home warm. Okay. So the audit itself includes things like the basement, the attic, the envelope of the house, and they'll do a thing called what's it called? It has to do with the door, a blower door. Yeah, they'll do the blower door test. And really what they're doing is they replace your door with a big fan and they blow air into your house, and they're looking for leakage of air back out of your house. So it's like a pressure test. It's like pressure testing your plumbing to make sure there's no leaks. It's the same sort of thing, and they'll get an idea of how drafty your home is, how many air leaks, and what could be done to really improve that.
Would it even help in situations where maybe you get field mice that come in? Would it help discover where those small or squirrels that can get into the attic and that kind of thing? I mean, that's not as much about energy, but it certainly is about efficiency and wiring not being eaten and all that kind of stuff.
It's about protecting your house, really, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it would give you a little bit of evidence of, now there's natural places where your house is designed to vent out of the attic, near the top usually. There's roof vents, and in the soffit along the outside, there's vents that will allow the cold air to come in and the hot air to escape out of the top. Because you want your attic to be primarily the temperature of the outside. Okay, so we don't want it to get overheated in the summer because it reduces the life of the shingles. And we don't want it to be too warm in the winter because we're going to get condensation and we're going to get ice damming on the roof. So it should be around the same temperature as outside. And the insulation protects your inside where you're living from the temperature difference of the attic space. And if the attic space is taking on too much characteristics of either the outside, the inside in the winter, then that's a problem because you don't have enough insulation.
Right. So having some decent insulation in the attic is in fact important. And in relation to insulation, it's kind of a nice thing to be able to get up there and see what you have, because if you're sitting with vermiculite or some of the other types of insulation that maybe are not as desirable now, long before you get the home on the market, you could actually get that addressed.
Yeah, you might want to have that removed. It's not, or at least tested for asbestos, and then decide whether you want to remove it or not. It's one of those things that's starting to be a stigmatization to a house, and if you're going to sell your house in the near future, it might be wise just to have it removed and put
well, rather than putting insulation just on top of it.
Yeah, you definitely would not put insulation on top of vermiculite.
So if you want to increase the R value, because typically with vermiculite, the R value is not that great, so it would not be terribly energy efficient. It wouldn't be considered green because, well, although it's a naturally mined product, so it's green from that sense, but once it's in the house, it usually wasn't that thick or that dense, and therefore not that helpful in terms of energy efficiency.
Yeah. Now, some of the obvious things with an energy audit is going to be your furnace. That's one of your biggest energy consumers, is the air conditioning and the furnace. As a matter of fact, it was very common to put mid-efficiency furnaces in houses because they were cheaper than the high-efficiency furnaces. And now when you go to replace that, there are no more mid-efficiencies. They don't even make them anymore. They're all high-efficiency. So if you've got a mid-efficiency, you can tell because it will have a steel pipe chimney coming out of the furnace. And if it's a high efficiency, it's going to be a plastic pipe, and it'll usually vent out the side of the house.
Right. They call it direct vent, do they not?
Direct vent, yep. And so the reason it can be plastic is so much of the heat is transferred into the house that the exhaust is very cool. As a matter of fact, it's cool and it's full of condensation, so they actually have the venting so it's on an angle so the condensation runs back to the furnace and then usually it runs into a hole in the floor or is pumped
There's a little
out.
condensate pipe that
Yeah.
goes down into some way of getting the water
Yeah,
out
it
of
might
the house.
go to a sump pit, it might go to a floor drain, it might go to a pump that pumps it up to another drain in the house. So it's going to check for energy wastage through your furnace and your air conditioner. And there are nice thing is there are some programs through saveonenergy.ca. There are some requirements on there. You can see what the requirements are on the website, and you can get a rebate of $250 on your heating system and $250 on your cooling system. So if you're due for a change of both of them, you could save $500 by applying to that website, which is great.
Right.
Free money.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, it's not as much as they were offering until earlier this year, so there's been a big run on doing energy audits for the benefit of what you can get from rebates so that you got a fair bit of money back. That unfortunately doesn't exist currently. However, there's still huge value in making your home as energy efficient as possible, or at least looking at what the cost is and the benefit relative to what you're going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to keep your eye on programs or see what may be coming up or what is existing, you can go to www.energy.gov.on for Ontario, on.ca. And then another area that we waste energy is on appliances. If we've got an older fridge, you might check with Ontario Hydro. They had some programs where they would remove your old appliances if you're upgrading. For free. And a new fridge can be much more efficient than an old fridge. Or maybe that beer fridge you have in the basement that you hardly keep anything in, you know, the old one with the pull handle that it's just chugging through the electricity and you're maybe not even keeping anything in it. Right. Old freezers are less efficient. Old air conditioners are less efficient. And then the other thing that people really don't recognize or understand is that when you plug in appliances, typically they're running electricity through them constantly. There's transformers in them. Even if the power is not on, there's things that are energized inside and could be sucking a little bit of power. Even your little adapter to charge your cell phone, it's plugged in the wall and you leave it in there.
Even if I don't have my cell phone attached.
Even if you don't have your cell phone attached, it's draining a bit of power.
And if you have one of those, it may not be a big concern. And yet it's a cumulative effect, isn't it? If I have a few in my house and you have a few in your house and everybody on my street has a few from a energy, not even a cost us individually so much, however, the whole impact on the environment is significant.
Yeah. Even your air conditioner unit has a little heater in it that sometimes will run all winter if you don't turn off the breaker, and it can cost some money on your air conditioner unit. The other place that people don't realize is TVs. We like instant on. We're an instant gratification culture. And appliance salespeople know that we want instant on. And for a TV to be instant on, many times they have to have certain things energized inside the TV so that when you turn it on, the screen comes up fast. There isn't that time to warm up electronics and different pieces in the TV. So that's one place to watch too. So you may want to unplug some of your different appliances. There's even a program right now, I believe, through Ontario Hydro, where you can get, if you have the smart meter, you can have a meter that shows your consumption, and as you go around and unplug things, you can actually see how much your consumption's going down. So that's a really cool thing too.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of programs, Ken, isn't there, for lower income earners or up to certain income brackets that do exist in relation to energy conservation?
Yes, Enbridge Gas, so you have to be an Enbridge client and you have to be using their fuel. They have a program, and it doesn't matter whether you're renting or a homeowner. If you're a client of theirs and you're a low income earner, they will come through, and you can go to their website and it has the amount of money that you're allowed to earn under the program, and they'll come to your house and help winterize it or weatherproof it, put weather stripping and different things like that on your house to help reduce your consumption. And that's a free program. They come and do it for free if you're a low income earner. So that might be worth looking at as well.
Okay. So if you're joining us today on the Inside Track with the Decker team, we are talking about energy audits and the benefit of audits and exactly what's entailed and how you would go about having one. Hopefully you've learned a lot about it in this first half of the show. And if you're just joining us now, you want to go back and listen to it because we're going to switch gears a little bit at this point in the show, I think.
Well, I got a couple more tips.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple more tips on energy, and then we're going to switch gears, or tracks, as I like to say. We're going to switch the track that we're on.
Because we're on the inside track.
Yes, on real estate. So other tips for conservation of energy. When you're going to buy a new appliance, they have, most of them, Energy Star ratings, and you can check the average monthly consumption of a particular appliance. And sometimes you spend a little bit more. You get an appliance that draws a whole lot less power, and therefore is more energy efficient, and it will actually take less hydro. And if you factor that over, a 10 or 15-year lifespan of an appliance, it might actually cost you less to buy the more expensive, better appliance than it does to buy the cheaper one. So do some calculations, especially with electric power. The price is going up and up and up. I haven't seen a price reduction in a long time. And so watch for that. Another thing is you can, with the smart meters now, I think probably pretty much every home in Ontario has a smart meter. And a smart meter determines different rates for the power at different peak periods of the day. So running your laundry at night or your dishwasher at night after it goes down to the lowest rate will make a significant impact in your hydro bill.
Right, and even having appliances that are lower water consumption, because that helps not only on your water bill or your hydro bill if you're in the country and you have a well pump. It also just is less expensive to run because often they run for a shorter period of time as well, right?
And so going to a front load appliance in washer and dryer as opposed to a top load, a couple things. The front load's going to use about, I think, a third of the water that a top load uses. It's easier on your clothes, so you're going to buy less clothing. It's not going to wear out.
And it uses less soap.
It uses less soap. You're going to buy less soap. And then the other thing is it dries better. It spins faster and better than a top load. So when you take your laundry and put it in the dryer, your dryer runs for fewer minutes or hours or whatever, depending on how much laundry you're doing. And that's a great cost savings. And then, of course, if you're very environmentally friendly, you're going to hang it on the clothesline, not put it in the dryer at all. So those are kind of the tips. And now we're going to change tracks. And we're going to talk a little bit about selling your home yourself. And you might say, why would a realtor talk about selling your home yourself? Well, because there's some pitfalls. And there's some advertisements out there from the for sale by owner companies because they want to obviously get your business. And their business model is different than our business model because our business model is we get paid when we do a result for you, and the result is your home being sold.
Right, and if we don't get a result, we've incurred a whole lot of expense.
Yep.
A lot of money has been spent, thousands of dollars now, because we're doing video and we're doing photography and we're doing a lot of internet marketing, we're doing a lot of high quality print pieces, and it all costs a lot of money to put together. So whether those marketing efforts create any result or not, the cost to us is the same.
Right.
The cost to you as the seller is zero.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Nada to the seller if we don't get the job done. Now, with a for sale by own company, they don't really care whether you sell or not. I mean, they do because it's good for their business. And yet, whether you sell your house or not, they get a paycheck. Right? They stick it on a website, they get paid. They sell you a sign to put on the front lawn, they get paid.
Or rent you a sign, I guess.
Sometimes it's rent.
Sometimes it's rent, sometimes it's purchase.
If it's open house signs, they get paid up front. If you want it on the MLS with what we call a mere posting, which just means they just throw it up on the MLS, and there's some significant issues with that, and I want to talk to you about that in a minute. They charge you for that. So all the upfront costs are borne by the seller. And if it doesn't sell, guess what? If they really need to sell, they generally come to a realtor. And a realtor gets the job done for them, and the realtor gets paid. So the seller now is paid it twice.
Now, the first amount's probably smaller than what they would pay the realtor upon result.
Yes.
Except it is result driven. So it's great because there is no expense until you get the result.
with the realtor.
Right.
Absolutely. We pay
Right.
all the upfront costs, and then we get reimbursed when we get the job done. And not even when it's sold, but when it actually is closed and the seller has all their money in their pocket, that's when we get paid.
Right.
So if for some reason it doesn't sell, we don't get paid. Even if we brought the offer and everybody agreed and for some reason it didn't close, which doesn't happen often but could happen, we don't get paid.
So it's in our best interest to negotiate an amazing agreement and one that's solid clad and one that's not going to have any issues with
Yeah.
it.
So now we see all these ads going on the you know, radio and TV about, oh, I sold it myself and I saved the commission and it was $10,000 saving or $15,000 saving. How do we know they really saved the money? Because as I mentioned in a previous show, about 10% of the buyers are buying through the for sale by owners, and then 90% of the buyers are working with realtors.
Right.
Now there's 4 types of buyers. Did you know that, Yetta?
I did, Ken.
Okay.
Let's recap for everybody
Okay.
what the types of buyers are.
All right. So there's the buyer who is just we call them a looky-loo. They are just thinking maybe of getting to buy something. They're not sure. They're not really committed. And so they're going to be they're going to open houses. They're going to for sale by owners open houses. They're looking on the for sale by owner sites. They're looking on our sites. And they're just looking around. Then there's the buyer who's an investor. An investor could be working with a realtor or could be working on their own. And they're looking for a steal of a deal. So they're looking to really buy a house under market. So they're, I'll use the word preying. They're preying on the for sale by owner who's uneducated, maybe has their house too low, or doesn't know how to negotiate strongly, and gets disadvantaged by someone who's a sharp negotiator. Okay, so those are the 2 types of buyers. And typically for sale by owners are attracting those 2 types. And then a 3rd type is a buyer that's committed. They've been pre-qualified with a mortgage broker, and 90% of those have signed up with a realtor and are working with a realtor.
To protect their interest.
Yes,
To get help.
because that realtor is not charging them. They're getting paid from the seller for selling the house. So those people are going after the MLS listings because that's what the realtor has easy access to. We have a system that will automatically send out the qualified buyers a particular property. So very few of those see the for sale by owners. A few of them do, but very few. So that's 90% of the buyers. And then there's a few buyers that have to buy a house. They are transferred. They're here from another town or city or province or country. They've got 3 to 5 days to buy a house, and they have to buy a house. And guess who they're working with?
Well, they're definitely working with a realtor.
Yeah, because they need to see houses during the day, at night. They need to see a whole bunch of them. They can't wait for a for sale by owner to take off work and go home and open up the house.
Necessarily. Sometimes they will.
But typically,
They're
again,
pretty
90%
motivated
of,
buyer.
They're a hugely motivated buyer, and they're working with realtors. So the for sale by owner is disadvantaged in that they don't have access to those. Now, one of the things that really, really ticks me off, okay, I don't get uptight very often, but this bothers me, okay, and that is there is a for sale by owner company out there, at least one, there may be a couple of them, and what they're doing is they're selling an MLS ad. So they've hired a realtor.
That's part of their company.
That's part of their company.
So you have a realtor, access to a realtor.
Well, they're not also, sometimes they're not part of their company. They're just contracting that out, and that realtor simply gives no advice to the seller. All they do is they input the information that the seller gives them.
Right, into the MLS?
Into the MLS system, okay?
Okay.
And then that system puts an ad on the internet. And so they're buying an ad on the internet. They might pay $100, they might pay $400, I mean, whatever, to do that. It doesn't really matter what they pay. But they're going on to the MLS. Now, the problem is the way our systems work. It's not a problem for us because as realtors we don't access the MLS. We access MLX. And MLX is the interior program that that all realtors use, that are part of the Ottawa, part of the Ottawa board,
and it's part of our membership dues and part of our annual renewals and our expenses and our monthly fees and all of that pay for MLX.
Yes. Now the MLX system is what all realtors search, because we have all the data in there and we can put in criteria. So much easier to use than the MLS.ca or realtor.ca, which the general public.
Right. And not only MLX is easier to utilize, it actually is more comprehensive. It has more information in it, and also it's more timely. So MLX is almost instantaneously uploaded to every buyer that's attached.
Not almost. It is.
Well, it takes a few minutes.
No, I'm not talking about the buyers. I'm talking for the realtors. When we put something on the MLX and we hit the button submit, immediately, all realtors have access to that information.
Correct. Not 24 or 48 hours later.
The MLS is uploaded on a data dump, and that may take a day or two before that information that the realtor keyed in is actually gone to the public. So there's a couple days there.
And sometimes it's sold before it ever goes to the data dump.
Sometimes.
Right.
And so what happens is the realtors that are watching the market for their clients are seeing that. And then the other thing that happens is our MLX system is the thing that will send a new listing to one of my buyer clients. So if I sign up a buyer and I put their criteria into the system and I automate it, every 2 hours it's going to check. Is there a new listing that matches? Nope, doesn't send anything. Is there a new listing that matches 2 hours later? Yes, there is. Boom, emails it out to my client.
Right.
All right? My client gets access to it because I'm part of the Ottawa Real Estate Board. Now, there are people that are signing up with for sale by owner companies that are part of a board that's not the Ottawa board.
So why would that matter?
Well, it matters hugely because they're members of, say, Toronto Real Estate Board. So now they're on the MLS, so the public that is generally searching can find it. But the realtors that don't use MLS,
and the clients,
there's 2,800 of us.
Right, and the clients that are attached to those realtors who are getting the accurate information, the quick information, the detailed information. They're not getting it.
They're not getting it because it's on a board in Toronto that we don't have access to, and our automated system's set up for our Ottawa board, and they're not on the Ottawa board. So as far as I'm concerned, they might as well take a match and light the money they paid to get it stuck on the MLS because it's on an Ottawa, not on the Ottawa board.
Because most of the motivated buyers are searching the detailed, accurate information on MLS because it's being done for them.
You got it. They're signed up and they're all set. So we've had a great time. I'm all charged up. I love this stuff. If you want to hear the truth about selling it yourself, and some people do, some people change their own oil, some people put in their own kitchens, you can sell it yourself. I hope you don't get a lawsuit. We have insurance for this stuff, and we don't get into lawsuits very often. As a matter of fact, I think, well, we won't even go there. I don't think we have. So be really careful if you want to do it yourself. If you want to know the truth about it, come and talk to us. Give us a call, 613-860-4663. That's 613-860-4663. And we'd be happy to discuss the advantages and the disadvantages of selling it yourself or having a great team like the Decker team look after you.
Right.
And so that's it for today. We've run out of time.
So you've joined us on the Inside Track on real estate. If you have questions that you want us to answer on air, simply email them to deckerteam@chri.ca. You can watch archive shows at either chri.ca or deckerteam.com.
And we'll see you next week.
Have a great day.